everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're new, hello, stick around if you want. I recently have uploaded a bunch of vlogs relating to river cruising, so if you're interested in that you can look through some of my past vlogs. And at the moment, this tea is very hot. And at the moment I am focusing on life in London. I am in London, I am an actress looking for work, so come with me on my journey to find work and make a living in London. But I also love books. Obviously I love musical theatre and that's what this video is going to be about. I try to do some fashion-y things. I haven't done many yet, but that is something I'm sort of trying to do a bit more of this year. And yeah, there's lots of other stuff. Travel, I tend to do a lot of travel. I'm going to try and travel less this year because I've done so much in the past, which I'm very grateful for. So there's all sorts to stick around for on my channel, and there's all sorts of things you can already watch from the past. I think I've done over 1,000 videos by now, so there's a lot to look back on. But as I say, one of the things I love and one of the main things I sort of talk about and do on this channel is to do with musical theatre. Now, last year I was incredibly lucky to see a lot of shows. 2022 I also saw quite a few. At the moment I'm going to focus on 2023. If this video isn't crazy long, I will talk about my shows from 2022 as well, but for now I want to focus on all the shows I saw in 2023 and give a little review about each one. I think I did vlog each one as well, and I probably chatted in those vlogs about each one, but this is a little bit more in depth. Now, I do just want to put a disclaimer or two out just before I start. So number one is that I love musical theatre full stop. It's very rare for me to see a show and not love it, just because I am so grateful to be there to watch it, to see the actors perform, to hear the musicians usually, and to know everything that goes into it. And by the end, when the cast is bowing, I'm almost always in tears and just proud almost of seeing what they've done. And I think because that's what I want to do, I just have so much respect for it. And as I say, I find it very hard to find flaws in productions. And number two is because this is an industry I'm trying to break into, I find it really hard to say anything negative, even if, you know, usually I don't find any negativity in anything. But even if there is something that I feel, oh, that could have been done a bit better or differently, I find it really hard to talk about it because I don't want to sort of say the wrong thing and that will end up making me not get a job. So I can be a little bit cautious at times, and I'm sorry if that happens in this video. All that being said, let's get into it. So, the first musical of 2023 that I watched was Elf the Musical. I watched this right at the start of the year, so the 6th of January, and I saw this, I think it was at the Dominion Theatre, and I really enjoyed it. It was just a happy, fun musical. I think if you told me Elf was going to be made into a musical, there's so many expectations I would have, and I feel like it really did hit the brief. Bearing in mind, I'm trying to remember now back to a year ago, so maybe I said different things in the vlog when I went to see it, but I really enjoyed it from what I remember. And in fact, I've got star ratings here. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5, so not bad. The next show I went to see of 2023 was 2 days later, and it was Hex at the National Theatre. Now, I'd heard really, and I have heard really mixed reviews about this. Not a lot of people seem to enjoy it, but I really liked it. Admittedly, I got very cheap tickets to it, so you know, that's always going to make me a little bit biased. But I liked the music. I think it's really hard to create a story or a long enough story out of Sleeping Beauty to make it a full-blown musical. So I think it was impressive that they managed to do that. As a result, I did feel like there were bits that really weren't necessary, but they were still good, even though they might not have added necessarily to the plot or to the show. Oh, and we had good seats, so that always helps as well. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I gave it a 4 out of 5. All of these are out of 5. I think they're all star ratings. Next, a few days after that, I went to see Frozen. That was also in January. I loved Frozen. I thought it was so magical and beautifully done, and actually I've just heard today that it's closing in September, which is a real shame. And I think if you haven't gone to see it yet, it's so impressive, it's so clever, it's so beautifully done. Obviously it helps if you like the Disney movie, which I do, but even if you don't necessarily, I just think it's such a beautiful piece of theatre and so cleverly done that I recommend it anyway. And I gave that one a 4.25. Next, couple of days after that, I went to see Matilda. This would have been my fourth time maybe seeing Matilda, or maybe third. I've seen it quite a few times, and I've been in a sort of workshop production of it when I was in drama school and I played Matilda. So I'm going to be biased about it. I love this show. I mean, I wouldn't go back to a show if I didn't love it 4 times. But again, this is just such a beautiful show. Now, the thing is, obviously Matilda's based off a book, and I loved this book as a child. I still do, but I would read it over and over again as a child. And it's very, very rare for me to say something has improved on the book version of it, because usually I'm one of those people who's like, the book is always better, because as I said, I'm a big book lover. But I actually think the musical did improve upon the book, and I think it is so good. And even if you've seen the musical movie, which is obviously new now, I still recommend seeing it as a show because it's just so impressive, so moving, so beautifully done as well. Oh, I love it. Can you tell I'm passionate about it? I love Matilda. That is one of my dream shows. I would love to be in Matilda. So I gave that one a 4 out of 5. Next, I went with a friend to see Bat Out of Hell, and this was sort of totally out of the blue. We were not expecting to go. It wasn't something that had ever piqued my interest. Admittedly, back in 2022, when I was working in Greece in a hotel performing, one of the songs we sung was Bat Out of Hell, and I actually really enjoyed singing it. I sung quite a lot of that song, and I loved it. But basically, we were just looking for a show to see, and this one wasn't crazy expensive. I think it had a deal on at the time, so we were like, yeah, why not? And again, we had pretty good seats, and this one was incredible. So unexpected. I think with the other ones I was probably expecting them to be good, but with this one I wasn't expecting anything, and I really enjoyed it. As always, the story with whenever you've got a jukebox musical, you're always going to struggle a little bit with the story, and it wasn't the most perfect, beautiful story, but it was a very impressive show, and I really enjoyed it. And I gave that one a 4 as well. Next, we finally went to see Newsies. We were meant to see this one earlier in the year. I think we were meant to see it in January, and it ended up being cancelled and postponed and moved and whatnot. But we ended up getting amazing seats as a result for really not a lot of money. And actually, it was a little bit more expensive than my usual, but that's because my parents paid for it, I think. It was a birthday gift or something. So we had incredible seats, and I love Newsies. My friend who I went to see it, absolutely, it's their favourite musical, or one of their favourite musicals of all time, and this one blew me away. I'm so sad that it's not currently playing, but I think it is coming back. I think either it was rumoured or it's been announced that it's coming back. So catch that one if you can, because it's so... I mean, I do love Newsies anyway, and I had always loved the music, but this production, this version of it was just insane. Insane. So good. And I gave that one a 4.75. Next, I've got a play, actually, which was Witness for the Prosecution. And this one was really good. I did enjoy this, but to me, I can't say anything without giving it away. I would recommend going to see it. I'll just say that. I gave that one a 4.25, so again, not bad. And again, I think we had pretty good seats, and this was a show that we'd been trying to see for over a year. We'd been trying to see it in 2021 and couldn't get cheap enough tickets, and so, because I see a lot of theatre, it needs to be, relatively cheap. So we waited and waited, and we finally got to see it, so that was really nice. Next, I went to see And Juliet in Australia. So this is one of the few that's not West End, because it's no longer on the West End, which is a real shame. And I really enjoyed it. Again, it wasn't the most incredible show ever, but I loved the songs and the way they did it and the dancing, and it was just fun and happy and comedic and light and energetic, and I really enjoyed that one as well. And I gave that one a 4. Oh, and their accents, though, they were very questionable. But again, that was Australia, so I'm sure they got better London accents here. And just for the record, I don't mind if you don't do an accent, but I do mind if you're trying to do an accent and not doing it well. I'd rather you just did it in your own accent. Which is odd coming from me, who has the most mixed accent of all, but anyway. Next, we are jumping months into the future. So I went to see And Juliet when I was in Australia in April. The next show on my list is November, and I was very confused for a second, but of course, I was working on the river cruise for the entire summer. So the first one I went to see in November, I think this was the week I saw 6 shows in a week, so I've seen a lot. I was very lucky. So the show was again a play, and it was Noises Off. I saw Noises Off in Australia back in 2017 and fell in love with it. It was hilarious, one of my favourite plays ever, probably my favourite play ever. And then I studied it twice and performed in it twice in drama school, because we did 2 different acts. So I know this show quite well, and I still really enjoy it. And I really enjoyed it on the West End as well, obviously. and I gave that one a 4. Next, Back to the Future. This was my second time seeing Back to the Future. I love the trilogy, the movies. I grew up with them. I would watch them over and over again, and I love them so much. And the first time I went to see Back to the Future, I was blown away. It was so good. The music, it wasn't necessarily memorable music, but it was so well done and kept with the motifs from the movie, and just absolutely flawless in my opinion. And so when I went to see it again, I loved it just as much, basically. I gave that one a 4.5. Also, I love the Adelphi Theatre. I've been there quite a few times as well. Next, Rebecca. This was at the Charing Cross Theatre, and this was again a very spur-of-the-moment decision to go see this. I didn't really have any interest in it, but when I worked on the river cruise, we very often stopped in Vienna, and I often saw advertisements for Rebecca in Vienna. So I was a bit curious about this show that originally was German, I believe, that was now playing in Vienna. I knew it was also either coming to Holland or has played in Holland. So it's obviously, you know, it's big enough that it's travelled around Europe. So I was curious about it. And again, we managed to get really cheap tickets, very last minute. And so we just went. And I don't know how to talk about this show. I think the singing and the actors were absolutely phenomenal. They were so strong and so good. I feel like, I don't know if it's the script or if it was the direction, but something just wasn't working quite as nicely as I think it could have. And it could have also just been the stage, because obviously the Charing Cross Theatre is really quite small. And maybe this is the kind of production that needs a bigger set and a bigger space. I enjoyed it. I didn't love it. I think this was my only 3-star, so, you know. Yeah, even if I look at, I had one from 2021 that wasn't as good. I keep saying 2021, but I mean 2022 because I don't know how time works. There was one play in 2022 that I saw that was less than 3 stars, but everything else has been over 3.5. But I still enjoyed it. I mean, 3 stars is really not bad. So, you know, it just wasn't the best out of everything else we'd seen, especially the night before we'd seen Back to the Future. Like, it's going to be hard to compare. We've got 3 more, and I don't think I'm going to talk about 2022 because I can see that this is already 16 minutes long. So, the next one we saw, which is one that is closing next month, and I was heartbroken to hear that it was closing, is The Time Traveller's Wife. We saw this again at the end of last year, and I went with my friend who had actually introduced me to the movie. I'd never seen the movie, I'd never even heard of it, I'd never heard of the book, so I really loved the movie, but I couldn't remember much of it. I think it was like 2 years ago that we watched the movie. But the thing about me is that I am obsessed, as you might be able to tell from Back to the Future, obsessed with anything to do with time travel. I love any world, anything to do with time travel. One of my favourite all-time books is Time and Time Again by Ben Elton, which I highly recommend everyone reads. It was, again, time travel. And so Time Traveller's Wife, that already sounds good. David Hunter also sounds good. I'm a big fan of David Hunter. I saw him in Kinky Boots, and then I saw him again in Waitress, and I'm just a big fan of his. And this was, again, really good. Again, I don't think the songs were necessarily the strongest, but the story and the way it was done was so good, so clever, very, mind-boggling. As it should be. Same with Back to the Future, by the way. That was also very insane. But The Time Traveller's Wife, I think for the entirety of Act 2, I was crying, but in a good way. Well, kind of. And again, the cast was very, very strong, and I really enjoyed it. I was very impressed, and I gave that one 4 stars. Next, I have a play, which is Hamlet, with an N, and it's about the story, really, of Shakespeare's wife and kids. And I'd never heard of it. I didn't really know what I was expecting. We were in the very front row, so we could see everything, like, happening right there. And again, I sobbed for most of it, but it was so good. It was so well done. The actors, again, were phenomenal. I loved it. I was very, very impressed. And again, it was one that I just wasn't expecting anything from at all. And I was blown away. And I gave that one 4 stars as well. And then, very finally, my last show of 2023 was Treason. And for this one, I was not planning to see it. I'd heard Inevitable from Treason, and I liked it as a song, but that was it, really. That was the extent of my interest in Treason. And then I managed to get £5 tickets like the day of, and I thought, right, I'll just go, because when else am I going to get that opportunity, and when else is Treason going to be on? And I had pretty good seats, and it was opening night, and it was okay. I was hoping for it to be better. I think there was more they could have done. To be fair, as I say, it was opening night, so maybe it did get better as the run went on. I think it was on for maybe 2 weeks or so, and it went into the London Palladium, so maybe there it was better. I saw it at Alexandra Palace. I can't speak anymore. But it just didn't quite do what I was hoping it would. And it just wasn't, it didn't reach the level that I thought it was going to, and I thought that was a shame. But you could definitely see the Hamilton influence, and it was still good. Absolutely, undoubtedly, it was still good. And I gave that one 3.25. So those were all the shows I was lucky enough to see in 2023. I am very aware of how privileged I am to be able to see all these shows. I'm lucky to be based in London. I'm lucky to earn enough and have enough of a living that I can see shows. I'm lucky to get gifts from family members and friends to take me to shows. I'm lucky to find cheap deals for a lot of shows and have the flexibility, and that helps with getting deals. And I know that I am in a very, very privileged position, and I'm very grateful for that. I think realistically this year I'm definitely not going to be seeing as many shows as that. I'm hoping to still go, you know, frequently enough. I probably will go maybe once every 2 months or so, maybe once a month, depending. We're trying to book tickets for Guys and Dolls because my grandma, out of the blue, told me she really wants to go. She doesn't really like musicals, so when she said she wants to go, I was like, yeah, I'll come with you. Even though Guys and Dolls is one of the few I was actually not that interested in going to see, but hopefully that will be in the next few weeks, and eventually there might be a vlog or something coming up about it. That might have actually come out before this has come out, I don't know. But anyway, I want everyone to know that I know that I'm in a very privileged position to have seen that many shows last year. And I think the year before, 2022, probably wasn't far off, and I'm very grateful for that as well. So let me know some of the shows you've seen this year or in past years, anything you really recommend, and tell me I have to go see. And as I said earlier, feel free to subscribe if you want to stick around. You can check the description box, there's a bunch of things in there if you want to look through whatever. And I will see you all probably quite shortly in the next video. Thank you very much. Bye!